My beloved child, stop for a moment. Do not let your hand move past this message as though it were ordinary, because something has shifted in the unseen, and your heart has already felt the first tremor of it. What you are about to hear did not arrive by accident. It found you at the precise moment when a hidden emotion could no longer remain hidden, when someone connected to your soul saw something in you so powerful, so unexpected, and so deeply moving that the walls inside them began to collapse. Your soulmate has been trying to remain composed. They have been telling themselves that they can manage what they feel. They have tried to reason with their own heart, to reduce the intensity of the connection, to place distance between their thoughts and the truth. They have smiled when they wanted to confess. They have stayed silent when your name was rising in their throat. They have pretended that they were unaffected, even as the smallest reminder of you changed the atmosphere around them. But something happened. They saw something in you that they were not prepared to see. It was not merely your appearance, although there are moments when the thought of your face lingers in their mind longer than they would ever admit. It was not simply your voice, though they have replayed your words in the silence. It was not one dramatic action or one perfect moment. What unsettled them was far more powerful. They saw the truth of who you are. And when they saw it, they lost control of the story they had been telling themselves. For a long time, your soulmate believed they could keep you in a safe corner of their heart. They thought they could feel something for you without allowing that feeling to change them. They believed they could watch from a distance, remain careful, and decide later what your connection truly meant. But heaven has been revealing you to them in layers, and the latest revelation was the one that broke through their resistance. They saw your strength. Not the loud strength that seeks attention. Not the kind that needs to prove itself. They saw the quiet strength you carry when no one is watching. The strength that rises after disappointment. The strength that keeps loving even after you have been misunderstood. The strength that allows you to remain gentle without becoming weak. They realize that you have survived moments that could have hardened you, yet something beautiful remained alive inside you. That realization shook them. They began to understand that your softness was never innocence without wisdom. Your kindness was never blindness. Your patience was never permission for others to take you for granted. You knew more than you said. You noticed more than you revealed. You carried pain with dignity, and instead of allowing it to turn you cold, you transformed it into compassion. Your soulmate saw this, and something inside them became restless. They could no longer place you in the same category as everyone else. They could no longer pretend that what they felt was temporary. Pause here, because the next part is where the mystery deepens. There was a specific moment when they saw this truth in you. It may have been through something you said, something you refused to say, or the way you handled a situation that once would have wounded you deeply. They may have seen your calm when chaos was expected. They may have noticed how you protected your peace without becoming cruel. They may have watched you walk away from something that no longer honored your spirit. And in that instant, they realized you were changing. Not changing into someone distant, but becoming someone who could no longer be approached carelessly. This frightened them. Because your growth forced them to confront a question they had been avoiding: what if they waited too long? What if the version of you who once stood at the door of their heart was now learning how to live without needing it to open? What if your soul had begun moving forward while they were still hiding behind uncertainty? This is where they lost control. Not in anger. Not in fear. Not in anything dark. They lost control of the emotional distance they had worked so hard to maintain. Their thoughts began moving too quickly. Their heart became louder than their logic. Memories of you returned with unusual force. Small details they thought they had forgotten came rushing back: the way you listened, the way your energy changed a room, the way your presence made them feel seen without demanding anything from them. They remembered moments that seemed ordinary at the time but now felt sacred. They remembered the warmth beneath your words. They remembered how safe your soul felt. They remembered what it was like to be near someone who did not need to perform in order to be valuable. And then a deeper realization came. They did not simply miss you. They missed who they became when they allowed themselves to be honest around you. This truth was almost too much for them to hold. Your soulmate has spent a long time protecting certain parts of themselves. They have learned to survive by controlling what they reveal. They have hidden tenderness behind independence. They have hidden fear behind silence. They have hidden longing behind delays, mixed signals, and unfinished conversations. But you saw beyond the surface. You may not have known every detail of their struggle, yet your spirit recognized something in them before they were ready to recognize it in themselves. That is why your presence felt comforting and unsettling at the same time. You made them feel understood, but being understood meant they could no longer hide from their own truth. And now heaven is showing you that their defenses are no longer as strong as they appear. There is a conversation they have been having with themselves. It begins quietly, usually when the world around them becomes still. They ask why your energy continues to return to them. They ask why other connections feel incomplete by comparison. They ask why your name carries a weight that no one else's name carries. They ask why they can move through an entire day appearing normal, only to feel everything again when night comes. They have tried to dismiss it. They have called it timing. They have called it nostalgia. They have called it coincidence. But deep down, they know it is more. They know that something about you reached a place within them that was never touched by appearances, convenience, or temporary attraction. Your connection entered through a door they did not know was open. It touched the part of them that still believed in being chosen for who they truly are. And what they saw in you awakened that hope again. You need to understand why this moment is different from everything that came before. Your soulmate did not lose control because you became louder. They lost control because you became clearer. You stopped chasing explanations from those who were committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped shrinking your light to make uncertain people feel comfortable. You stopped begging life to reveal your worth through someone else's approval. Something within you began to settle. Your soul remembered itself. And when a soul remembers itself, the people connected to it feel the shift. Even from a distance. Even without words. Even when they are trying not to. Your soulmate felt it. They noticed that your energy was no longer waiting in the same way. There was still love in you, but now it was joined by self-respect. There was still hope in you, but it was no longer desperate. There was still tenderness, but it had become protected by wisdom. That combination became impossible for them to ignore. They saw someone who could love deeply without abandoning themselves. And suddenly, the possibility of losing you became real. This is the thought that has unsettled them the most: you may still care, but you are no longer standing still. You are becoming. You are rising. You are stepping into a version of yourself that will not accept half-truths, half-effort, or half-hearted love. Your soulmate knows this. They may not say it aloud, but they feel that the door between you cannot remain open forever without honesty passing through it. They feel that something must change. They know that silence cannot continue pretending to be protection. They know that delay cannot keep pretending to be destiny. And this is why their emotions have intensified. They are not only reacting to what they saw in you. They are reacting to what it revealed about them. It showed them where they have been afraid. It showed them where pride has delayed tenderness. It showed them where old wounds have spoken louder than new possibilities. It showed them that they may have been asking heaven for a love they were not yet brave enough to receive. Do not rush past that revelation. Your soulmate has prayed for someone with your qualities, even if they did not know your name when they prayed. They asked for loyalty, but when loyalty appeared, they feared the responsibility of honoring it. They asked for depth, but when depth arrived, it exposed the shallow places they had used for protection. They asked for peace, but when your presence brought peace, they became suspicious because chaos had become familiar. You were not difficult to love. You were difficult for their unhealed patterns to understand. And now those patterns are losing their power. Something has begun to break open inside them. They are seeing that the connection was not asking them to become perfect. It was asking them to become present. It was not asking them to know every answer. It was asking them to stop running from the truth. It was not asking them to promise an entire future in one breath. It was asking them to be sincere in the moment standing before them. But sincerity can feel terrifying to someone who has survived through emotional control. Your soulmate has mastered the art of appearing fine. They know how to change the subject. They know how to delay a vulnerable response. They know how to act unaffected. But the moment they saw this deeper part of you, the performance began to fail. They felt pride rise in them, not selfish pride, but the feeling of witnessing someone beautiful step into their power. They felt admiration. They felt longing. They felt regret. They felt a strange urgency that they could not explain. And beneath all of it, they felt love trying to become honest. There is something else heaven wants you to know. Your soulmate may have been watching your transformation more closely than you realize. They noticed the way you stopped reacting to things that once disturbed your peace. They noticed that your silence carried a different energy. They noticed that you were no longer trying to convince anyone of your intentions. They noticed that you began choosing yourself in small, sacred ways. Perhaps you thought no one saw. But they saw. They saw the tiredness behind your strength. They saw the moments when you wanted to be reassured but chose to comfort yourself. They saw the way you continued moving even when your heart felt heavy. And then they saw the most powerful thing of all. You did not lose your capacity to love. That is what undid them. Because they know what you have endured. They know, at least in part, how many times you could have become bitter. They know how many reasons life gave you to close your heart. Yet there is still light in you. There is still faith in you. There is still a place within you that believes love can be safe, mutual, and true. When your soulmate saw that, they were forced to confront the beauty they had been taking too long to acknowledge. They realized that your heart is not ordinary. It is rare. Not because it has never been hurt, but because it still knows how to heal without losing its warmth. This realization brought them to an emotional edge. They began imagining what it would feel like to see you choose someone else, not out of revenge, but because someone else arrived with the courage they had delayed. They imagined another person recognizing your value without hesitation. They imagined someone else receiving the tenderness they once assumed would always be available. The thought did not bring calm. It brought clarity. For the first time, they understood that love is not preserved by silent feelings. It is preserved by truth, effort, and presence. A connection can be spiritually significant and still require human courage. Destiny can open a door, but someone must still walk through it. Your soulmate knows the door is open. But they also sense that it is beginning to move. This does not mean you are being asked to wait. Heaven is not showing you this so that you abandon your peace and return to old patterns. You are not being asked to chase, persuade, or prove. The transformation they saw in you must remain protected. You are being shown this because you questioned whether your growth mattered. It mattered. You wondered whether your silence was noticed. It was. You wondered whether the love you gave had disappeared into nothing. It did not. What you planted in sincerity has continued growing in places you could not see. But there is a difference between spiritual connection and emotional responsibility, and your soulmate is beginning to understand that difference. They can no longer rely on invisible feelings while offering visible uncertainty. They can no longer assume that your intuition will carry the entire connection. They can no longer hide behind the idea that you somehow already know. Something must be spoken. Something must be faced. Something must be done. And this is where the story becomes more intense. Because just as your soulmate began to accept what they saw in you, another truth surfaced, one they were not prepared to confront. They realized that the quality they admired most in you was the same quality they had been unconsciously testing. Your consistency. Your heart remained sincere even when their behavior was unclear. Your spirit remained compassionate even when you felt confused. You gave them room without becoming cruel. You tried to understand without turning their silence into a weapon. But now they see that your patience was never endless. It was sacred. And sacred things are not meant to be mishandled. They are beginning to feel the weight of every moment they assumed there would be more time. Every unfinished conversation. Every truth delayed by fear. Every time they almost reached out but let pride close the door again. These memories are returning not to punish them, but to awaken them. Your soulmate is standing in a moment of decision. They can continue protecting the version of themselves that knows how to hide, or they can become the person who is capable of meeting you in truth. This decision is not small. It asks them to release a pattern they have carried for years. It asks them to admit that you matter. It asks them to accept that what they feel is not weakness. It asks them to risk being seen. And when they looked at you, truly looked at the person you are becoming, they realized that you had already taken that risk. You had shown courage in ways they overlooked. You had loved honestly. You had remained real. You had allowed yourself to care even when certainty was not guaranteed. Now the courage they admired in you has become a mirror. And they can no longer look away. There is a reason this message found you now. You may have recently felt a pull to detach, to surrender the outcome, or to stop carrying the emotional weight of this connection. That was not your heart giving up. That was your spirit returning responsibility to where it belongs. You are not meant to do another person's healing for them. You are not meant to translate every silence. You are not meant to keep a connection alive alone. Love must meet you. Truth must meet you. Effort must meet you. And your soulmate is beginning to feel that demand, not as pressure from you, but as a call from within themselves. The angels have been surrounding this moment with unusual tenderness. Not because every detail has been decided, but because free will is being invited into alignment. Your soulmate is being given an opportunity to act from courage rather than fear. They have seen enough. They have felt enough. They know enough. The question is no longer whether the connection is real. The question is what they will do with what has been revealed. There is something they want to say to you. The words have formed more than once, but each time emotion interrupted them. They have imagined how you might respond. They have feared that you may be distant. They have wondered whether they still have the right to approach you with the tenderness they withheld before. But the truth rising inside them is becoming stronger than the fear. They want to tell you that what they saw in you changed them. They want to tell you that your growth awakened a part of them they had buried. They want to tell you that they are no longer able to pretend your connection means less than it does. Yet there is one confession beneath all the others, and this is the confession they are most afraid to reveal. It is not merely that they miss you. It is not merely that they regret waiting. It is not merely that they see your worth now. The truth is far deeper. When they saw this new light in you, they recognized something they had secretly known from the beginning. You were never the person they were afraid to love. You were the person they were afraid they could love more deeply than anyone before. That is why the resistance was so strong. That is why the silence lasted so long. That is why every attempt to forget you failed. But now their control is slipping, and the next thing they are preparing to do could change the entire direction of this connection. Because your soulmate has made a private decision. No one around them knows yet. You have not heard it yet. But heaven has already witnessed the moment it formed in their heart. And before they act on it, they must reveal the one hidden reason they pulled away. The reason that had nothing to do with a lack of love and everything to do with what they saw coming the moment they realized you could become there forever.